Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome back to the Dynasty Wonderland podcast with me, the Mad Chatter Ryan MK, and of course, by my side as always, the salary captain, the March Heron, my good friend, Aaron Stewart. What's up, buddy? How's it going?
Oh man, doing well, doing well. We have concluded week 10, and week 10 follows the trend of what seems to be the last month of NFL football, which basically goes, you're going to predict something, and the complete opposite's going to happen because craziness, the NFL, it drives us crazy, but at the end of the day, we love it because you don't need drama on TV. You've got the NFL. So I'm doing good, bud. How about you?
It's very true, very true. I'm great. And we got a little bit of a new schedule. I was actually expecting something from you along the lines of back to, hey, happy it's Monday night and all of that, like we used to do. Because we'll let you know, Madcaps, here's the deal. There's going to be no more Sunday night pod, which basically would be a Monday pod for y'all. We've decided to combine what we record on Sunday and Monday and make it all come out Tuesday, okay? And then we'll still have the Thursday pod, which is inevitably the Friday pod. We call it those because that's the day we record, but y'all get it at a different time. But so those pods, we're just going to do 2 a week instead of 3. It's going to help us out. It's going to, just make everything a little bit neater and more organized, I believe, as well. So, and because there wasn't a whole lot of substance to the Monday night review, Thursday night recap pod. So this should do justice for what we're trying to do, I believe. So I'm excited to get back to Monday nights as well. And that opens up Sunday night for my other podcast, the Miscellaneous Debris Podcast. Shameless plug. You can check that out. Same place to check this out. But Aaron, happy to be back on Monday nights. We have a Monday night football game. Oh, by the way, we also have, before the Monday night football, we have a new YouTube channel. That's right. We're going to separate my Miscellaneous Debris stuff from the Dynasty Wonderland stuff. So we've got an actual The Dynasty Wonderland podcast channel. So make sure you go there, like, subscribe, do all that stuff like you would on the past one. Make sure to subscribe. So that being said, excited, buddy. Are you?
I'm excited. I love this show. We get to crap on some things. We get to crap on some things, and then we get to talk about some positive things. It's a good combination.
That's right. Before we do, just a few thoughts. What's going around? I guess there's a couple injuries, but we'll get to those when we get into the games. So any quick thoughts on the Monday night football game that was, mostly San Francisco, I would say. The Von Miller OBJ debuts spoiled. And it was good to see Debo continue his ass kicking over 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. But, that's kind of the highlights from it. What are your thoughts overall?
Overall thoughts on this one. I want to say we talked about this being a potential trap game. Like a lot of people, they go, the Rams, they're a better team than the 49ers. There's no questioning that. But divisional games get weird. And it was a road game too. So I'll say I wasn't expecting the 49ers to put an absolute beat down on the Rams. But,
right.
When people are like, I'm shocked the Rams got beat. The teams are going to lose games. They're going to. And this seemed to be set up kind of perfect for that. When you play division rivals, they play you twice a year. They know your stuff. But big takeaway on this one, really, you said it best. Debo and the crazy thing wasn't all through the air. 5 carries, 36 yards, and a touchdown.
1 rushing touchdown, 1 passing touchdown.
Yeah.
Or receiving.
Yeah, and he's just, golly, he is so dang good. And a lot of people, when you look at Debo, you go, he's 5'11", he's 215 pounds. He's not your traditional number 1 receiver, the 6'2", 6'3" receivers. But this is where the NFL's at. Like, you don't have to be that type of receiver. And I've said it in previous pods. I was not a believer of Debo going into the season, and I have apologized profusely. And if there are people that are still like not believers, what else do you need? Like the guy just produces, goes out, he performs. Man, thanks to touchdowns, he outproduced Cooper Kupp. But like that's another thing too. Is like you have arguably the two best receivers of this season that were in this game. I tweeted about it on Twitter. Where else would I tweet from? But these are two receivers that were averaging over 20 fantasy points per game coming into this game, and there's only one other guy. My mind is drawing a blank on who the third guy is. And lo and behold, they both scored over 20 fantasy points, and they were basically it. There was George Kittle. It was nice to see him score a touchdown. Elijah Mitchell, heavy workload. That's the other thing too. Just briefly, as Garoppolo is he's a game manager, and people that like to crap on him, you know what? He executed his role to perfection. This is just what the 49ers are. They don't want Garoppolo to go. They're not going to let Garoppolo cook. And not just because it doesn't roll off the tongue easily.
Right.
In this type of role, it's perfect. Just short, quick passes and just rely on the strengths of the other team. I think they knew the way to beat the Rams is you're not going to beat them in a shootout. Like you have to control the clock and you can't make turnovers. And Stafford, ugly game. Yeah. Those happen though.
Yeah.
All right. I talked way too much on this game. Do you have anything else to add?
Oh, no. I was just going to point out to they really, not winning in a shootout. They got to try and control it. I mean, Elijah Mitchell had 27 attempts, but Debo himself had 5. Jeff Wilson had 10, and Garoppolo 2. So, 29, 44 rushing attempts. And yeah, Jimmy G, you'd like to see what this offense looks like with a Trey Lance, what we imagine him to be, but it's clear he's not there yet. So we'll continue to monitor that. But really, the Rams, they just, when they look bad, do they look bad? The good news is that even when they look bad, Cooper Kupp still gets his. Because he didn't have a touchdown, but 122 yards off of 11 receptions. Yeah, he gets his regardless. So, but definitely,
so
bit of a stinker of a game as far as viewing experience goes. But once it got later on in the game, because pretty clear it was just not going to be the Rams' night.
Not at all. It was bad.
Okay. Well, let's head into Off With Their Heads. I'm going to go ahead and get the timer ready. And disclaimer, this does not mean we actually wish for any of these teams, players, etc., to be off with their heads and be missing their heads. No, it's a metaphor. It's the Dynasty Wonderland podcast. So, Off With Their Heads seems apropos. Okay, let's get into it. Aaron, go ahead and go first. What you got for the Off With Their Heads?
Well, they are coming off an absolute pitiful performance. That's the Falcons' offense, and I mean the whole offense on this one. But there's other things too. Obviously, this happened before, and we hope that he is getting the help that he needs. But Calvin Ridley, we don't know when Ridley's going to come back, and in his absence, there hasn't been a receiver that has been able to stand out. Like their receivers, receivers are other positional players. It's Cordero Patterson, who I don't know what you classify him as, just weapon. He's a weapon. And then Kyle Pitts, who is a tight end cheat code. But Russell Gage just came off a game where just a big old goose egg. And so losing Calvin Ridley, you got nothing else in the receiving room. And
Zacchaeus got 7 targets, but only came up with 2 of them.
Yeah, and we like Zacchaeus as like a tertiary option, but he's not gonna ever put up big numbers. I mean, he may have those PPR games that bail him out. The Julian Edelman special where maybe you catch 6 passes that go for like 50 yards and it looks good, but like it doesn't really help the offense much at all. And I mentioned Cordero Patterson. He's injured. He injured his
Yeah, I
ankle.
was gonna say he got hurt
He got hurt, and so it's like, all right, so you're down Calvin Ridley. You're probably gonna miss some games from Cordero Patterson.
for sure.
You still got Kyle Pitts, but
Where's
what
the
else do
offense
you
come
got?
from? Yeah,
Yeah, because the backfield's now back to Mike Davis and Wayne Gallman, another veteran running back that has been resurrected. And to Wayne Gallman's credit, it was just last season where he filled in for Saquon Barkley, and he was fantasy relevant for like a 5-6 week period. But Gallman has been the RB3, and my goodness, with how bad Mike Davis has looked at times, you sit there and go, if Gallman can't get any workload, if he wasn't able to steal any carries from Mike Davis before, what can he really bring? So off with their heads, Falcons offense, it's just becoming a shit show.
yeah. I would just add on Wayne Gallman after Patterson went down. I mean, Gallman had 15 total rushing attempts and a couple of targets. Mike Davis had 4 rushing attempts. So it's pretty clear Wayne Gallman's guy. I'd say worthy of of a waiver pickup in redraft leagues just to see what happens with it. I mean, because again, where's the offense going to come from? I mean, so it's a good chance, if anything, the opportunity could be enough. And then I would say, what else was I going to say? Oh, in Dynasty, there's a good chance he's probably not on those waiver wires in Dynasty leagues, but worth taking a peek. And then I was just going to say on the other side, CeeDee Lamb got hurt in that game. And we'll see how he fares, but it's a good chance it was precautionary from what I saw them sitting him because the game was kind of out of hand. But hey, that's a hell of a bounce back by the Cowboys. And off with their heads continues for me. Oh, sorry. Did you have anything else to add first?
Nope. I think we covered it all with the Falcons.
Okay, perfect. I will head into my first one then, and that is the Seattle fucking Seahawks. Not that I'm some huge fan, but I do kind of like Russ, even though he's kind of a fucking lame-o, like Mr. Unlimited. Like, come on, Russ. Just when I think you might turn the cool corner, you go and do some shit like that and just fuck it off, Mr. Unlimited. You were Mr. Super Limited this week, my friend. What happened to no pin, time to win? Isn't that what you posted? Isn't that what you posted, Russell Wilson? The pin's gone. No pin, time to win. More lame-o shit. And then you follow it up with this. Normally you do this lame-o shit and then you come out and you kick ass, Russ. What was going on here? This was maybe still bothers him, but this was just rough. This was just rough. Give it to the Packers. Okay, the Packers D. Russ had 2 interceptions. And let's face it, he's not getting a lot of help from the ground game. But this was just rough all around. Seattle gets blanked. And then you look on the other side, and A.J. Dillon, couple of touchdowns, picking up the slack after Aaron Jones gets hurt. So there's another injury. Cordero Patterson, down. Aaron Jones, down. Both seem to be probably out at least next week, possibly longer. Excuse me, we'll see how it goes. But yes, A.J. Dillon had a pretty good game, and, Packers took him out. I was hoping for a much more exciting game, Aaron. But it's like, I start to wonder, how much can we expect from the Seattle offense? Because Russ can only do so fucking much. And granted, I expected more from him in this game, coming off the injury or not. I mean, again, no pin, time to win. Come on. So, I don't know. This was disappointing overall if you're looking at it from a fantasy aspect. Although if you happen to play Gerald Everett, you got a nice little 14-pointer in PPR leagues. 8 targets or 8 receptions, 63 yards. Well, off of 8 targets. So decent game for him. But yeah, so I don't know. It's just a bummer. I expect more from the Seattle offense. I expected a better game. I also am just completely, I've been up and down with Aaron Rodgers his entire career, and I'm just over this dude right now. And so I kind of wanted to see him get beat. And instead, they put it to the Seahawks. And in the process, my guy Aaron Jones got hurt. So it's just a tough one this game. But yes, the Seattle Seahawks offense, off with your heads for the week. Can we get it right next week? Aaron, what do you got to add?
Only briefly on this one. I want to say it was a couple of weeks ago we started to touch on this, but it's not breaking news at all. But you start to wonder, is Russell Wilson's days with Seattle numbered? And not because of a performance thing, but there was already like rumblings in this past offseason about Russell Wilson getting traded. And this team's falling apart. It is. And that's the cycle that happens. You know, they come in, they were successful because Wilson was on a rookie contract. Well, that played a massive part. Wilson was on his rookie contract. They were able to afford all these pieces. Then when you extend the quarterback and you start having to go, well, we can't pay him. We got to cut him. It's you start losing all the talent, and they haven't really done such a great job of replenishing it. And look no further than the Jamal Adams trade. You trade multiple valuable first-round picks. Like, look, the first-round picks, you can build your team the way the Rams did, where you go, oh, draft picks? Well, that'll allow us to get whatever we need. Right. I just have a feeling you already start to see the cracks in the surface here, because I saw something today. Pete Carroll going, yeah, the refs really like screwed us on this one. Like, so you got blaming the refs publicly. Like the offense, you're right. It's just off. You got Metcalf. What was it? He got like ejected.
Yeah, dude, he was like grabbing onto a dude's helmet, and it didn't look good, man. They're kind of a mess. If I was Russ, I'd get the hell out of there. But the timer went off, so we're gonna move on to the next one. But it's hard to trust Seattle right now. Who do they got next week? I'll look at that in a minute. But go ahead and go on with your next off with the heads.
Off with their heads. It's a receiver, singular receiver. Cortland Sutton. Oh, Cortland Sutton.
Yeah.
Because Jerry Jeudy has returned. And in the two games there that they've played these past 2 weeks, he has had twice the amount of targets as Cortland Sutton. And Cortland Sutton, I'm going to pull it up here, has had 6 total targets. Wait, well, I guess actually my stuff's a little out of date here. The game logs I'm looking at don't have week 10. But he
had 3 targets in week 10.
3. So in 3 games, how many did Jeudy have?
He had 9 targets this week.
Oh my goodness. It just continues the trend here. So it's 3 games since Jerry Jeudy has come back. And Sutton has a whopping 9 total targets during that 3-game stretch. Jerry Jeudy, 9 in that game alone, and he had 12 the previous 2 weeks. So 21 and 9, like he's more than doubling the amount of targets. But this isn't like, it is a small sample size. But even going back to week 1, Cortland Sutton had 3 targets. Jerry Jeudy had 7. Jerry Jeudy he only played half the snaps in week 1. There is a clear alpha there in terms of target share. And that's Jerry Jeudy. And we haven't even talked about the fact that Tim Patrick has a defined role in that, and he's going to get probably 4 or 5 targets. He had I believe, 6 in week 10. You have that game log pulled up to do some stat verification for me?
I was double checking something else. One second. What do you need?
Patrick and Fance. So they both had 6
targets. Right? Yeah, and yes, Tim Patrick did as well. Sorry.
And that becomes a problem, is that Sutton is closer to those 2 guys. They're all 3 getting around the same targets, whereas Jeudy was the clear alpha with 9 targets. But that's the issue there. Sutton, he hasn't had a fantasy relevant performance in the past 4 weeks. Yep. It's disappointing. So off with their heads. Cortland Sutton, can't trust your brother.
And before I add on, are the Eagles anywhere in your mad observations?
Nope.
I'm just going to bring them up real quick then. because that's who smashed the Broncos. Holy shit. Jalen Hurts still doing, his thing. Not anything overly impressive, but as a team, I mean, they are just running the shit out of the ball. Jalen Hurts, 14 carries. Jordan Howard, 12. Boston Scott, 11. Our boy Kenneth Gainwell got in there with a couple. But, they're running the shit out of the ball. Devonta Smith got a couple of touchdowns instead of the running backs getting it this week. But they've kind of got a winning formula. It's not pretty, doesn't provide a lot for fantasy outside of Hurts. And then maybe Devonta Smith, but he's up and down due to the nature of the offense. So, but you like what you see, and you just wonder, there's going to be a decision on Jalen Hurts. And I just hope, he can pick up the pace, and he's looked good, but make it so they don't question it, make them want to bring you back is what I would say. But I'm going to go into, unless you had anything on the Eagles side of it, Aaron.
Nah, as a Cowboys fan, I'll keep my Eagles talk to a minimum.
Okay. That makes sense. All right. Well, I'll head into my last off with their head. And this is basically just the AFC West. They just let Kansas City right back in this shit. Just let them right back in this shit. All the other three teams, obviously the Chiefs beat the Raiders, but Broncos, as we just discussed, and then the Chargers. And the Broncos, I mean, what a fucking fantasy wasteland. I mean, every once in a while it'll be somebody like Melvin Gordon had a good game last week, like shit like that. And it's just, you can't count on them for nothing. And there's too much talent on that team to be able to say that. It's so fucking frustrating, So you got the Broncos, and then you got the Chargers. Oh, well, this team is also fucking frustrating. Like, what the hell happened to that? This was one of those teams we thought was really going to take off. And they had a bit of a hot start, but you can tell there's just some struggles with this team. And, Mike Williams, he just continues to be Mike Williams. I mean, what we've always, every time you think, okay, maybe Mike Williams is going to get, nope. Hey, nope. So they're another frustrating team. And then Las Vegas. I mean, really that Deshaun Jackson fumble really felt like it kind of flipped the game last night, because at that point it felt like the Raiders were going to try and keep up with KC. And after that, it just felt over. And that's tough, because I actually think they could challenge the Chiefs a little bit, but they've had so much turmoil this year. I mean, how long before just everything just takes its toll, Right. And so it just, I don't know. Las Vegas, you still look at them as maybe they got a shot in there somewhere, but I'm starting to like the Broncos. I'm done with as far as what they are as a team this year. And really, as far as, I love what I'm seeing out of Jerry Jeudy, as far as the attention he's getting, but this team is just bleh. So it's hard to trust anybody really, fantasy wise. And, the Chargers, they're just continually disappointing. So it's, the AFC West, I'm just not happy with. And, but other than Kansas City, because this could be really ugly, if not for the fact that, hey, Kansas City, at least for a week, looked more like the Kansas City offense we're used to seeing. I know you got something to say about this squad, so I'll let you get into it. But Patrick Mahomes, over 400 yards, 5 touchdowns. Kelsey did his thing. Tyreek Hill did his thing. We got the Pringle man getting a touchdown. So, KC was doing their thing. It looked normal. We'll see if it sustains. But at least for a week, they looked like Kansas City. And because of the failures of the rest of the division, they're now right back on top. After all the shit and after everybody like, what's wrong with kids? And I was doing it too. Like, what the fuck is going on with this team? And here we are. Here we are. So please, Eric, your thoughts.
Well, the one thing I've got to add, right, is good old Mr. Double Barrel himself, Darrell Williams, and his massive game. I knew that you wanted to talk about it too. Of course, he had the highlight catch. That was amazing. And just doing things that, oh man, if you're a Clyde Edwards-Helaire truther.
That was the timer, but keep going because I got to keep going. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, if you saw Darrell Williams' performance and you're a Clyde Edwards-Helaire truther, you go, but that's the CEH. That's the CEH performances that we need. So leads to some interesting conversations on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. It could return as soon as this week. And what are they going to do? It's a good problem to have from an NFL standpoint. Okay, Darrell Williams has been productive. He's not the best running back, but like he fits that system. He is able to do multiple things, block, can run. It seems he can run better than Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And then like the receiving game, you go, you really can't ask for more. But yes, just double barrel Darrell Williams himself. That is an anointed nickname I've given him. That's not his official nickname, but you love to see it. And yeah, I'm with you with Kansas City. It's like, it's one game, but sometimes it's a game like that where you go, things are starting to turn around. It just kind of clicks, it's not so different from what Tampa Bay went through last year, where they were okay, but they got swept by the Saints, and they're kind of hovering around 500, right above to where people weren't panicking. But you go, really? The Tom Brady's team is this? And second half of the season, it just clicks and things get better. And you know what? The defense has been better. Yeah. It's been better, and really, that's all they got to be. They have the Chiefs have never been a defensive powerhouse. It's just let's not do what they did in the first half of the season, where you just couldn't rely on them to do anything.
No, but it's also one of those defenses where they rely on the offense to do their thing, and then they can kind of, do their thing. It's not the defense you want out on the field when you're playing from behind very often. So definitely helps when the Chiefs are ahead. So, but yes, the overall Chiefs look a lot better. And I would say for Darrell Williams, it is good to point out his college target share in the 74th percentile, his college yards per carry in the 60th percentile. And, he doesn't have anything spectacular as far as workout metrics, but he's got average agility. That helps. So yes, on paper, you look at him and he's nothing crazy. But if you're Kansas City, I don't know how you don't keep rolling with him. Edwards-Helaire wasn't looking like this in there, for them. So I think if the offense is rolling, he's part of it. And so maybe this even helps Clyde Edwards-Helaire out. Maybe as the second option coming in, limited work, maybe he's more successful. You never know. So I just takes you back to those Clyde Edwards-Helaire versus Jonathan Taylor arguments, huh?
Oh boy.
Because I know whose side I was on.
I think anyone in the analytics field, people that lean more analytics over film, it was very clear.
Gotta love Jonathan Taylor.
Very much Team JT. Would love to see it, but man, poor Edwards. And I've got him in some places because you're playing enough leagues. You're gonna own him. We're gonna see what his role is going forward, and it's gonna be rough.
Yes, we'll have to see. You never know. But I do. If you're the Chiefs, I don't know how you can just let him come back and automatically put him ahead of Darrell Williams. Yeah. Especially after that catch, man. That was like, oh, hey, snatch that out the air. Okay, anyway. On to the mad observations. Aaron, good sir. Let's get through this. Start us off.
All right. First one. It seems that things are not going Tampa Bay's way lately. This was an upset. It was a road game. Crazy things happen on the road, but the Buccaneers coming off a bye week. It's like, okay, they lost bye week. They're going to take care of business against the Washington football team, except they didn't. It seems that Washington is one of those teams that just plays Tampa Bay very, very tough. And there is some concern. Washington has more holes in their defense than Packers fans have holes in their hats, their cheese head hats. Like, there's really, really bad delivery there. But
that's okay. I was hoping you were going to say heads, but
but you know what? It's concerning the performance that Tom Brady had against that Washington secondary. Now, bad games happen. They do, but like that was like, oh yeah, Brady's going to feast and have like 400 yards. He's going to have the Patrick Mahomes game that Mahomes had, except it didn't happen. And going forward, there are some issues, right? Because overall as a team, run defense stout. They clearly took care of business because Antonio Gibson touched the ball 26 times and had 78 yards.
Right.
He was getting volume, but not efficiency. But Tampa is right up there with Washington as being a really bad passing offense or passing defense. And Taylor Heineke was able to have some moments. It was kind of a Garoppolo type performance, but nonetheless,
he didn't throw an interception.
And he made plays.
Yeah.
And on offense, the issue is injuries. There was no Antonio Brown, no Gronk. They've been beat up for Gronk for most of the season and Brown for the last few weeks. And Godwin played, but it was kind of iffy. It really was a true questionable call. Was he going to play or not? And so on offense, Brady is losing these offensive weapons. Now, fortunately, none are season ending, but like these are injuries these guys are probably going to have to play through most of the season. So with Tampa Bay, 2-game slide here, you have to wonder, can they repeat the Super Bowl champs? It's incredibly difficult to do that. And maybe it's one of those, just like last season, where you go, Tampa Bay, I don't know if they can win, and they freaking figure it out. But there's a lot of things to address with this team right now.
I agree. And I also think that, I mean, it's just hard, man. It's hard for teams to repeat. It's hard for teams to, that's why it's so impressive what New England was able to do year after year after year. Teams just can't do that. Things change too much. And even though with the Bucks, nothing with them really changed, the NFL around them changed, the division around them changed, teams around. So, change is constant in the NFL and makes it hard to just do what you did one year the next year. And, there's definitely some warning signs. I'm sure they'll be fine. They'll still win the division, things like that. They'll get guys back. We'll get fantasy production as we're used to from this team. But, definitely cause for concern, I would say. And at least Antonio Gibson got a couple of touchdowns, despite the bad efficiency.
The volume was key on that one. But certainly not, like, that's not what you do against Tampa Bay, folks. Don't just run up the middle. Like, that's the one thing Tampa Bay has been consistently great at for 2 years. Right. A very stout defensive line.
Okay, so I'm going to get into Tampa's former team, the New England Patriots, and their shellacking, their clobbering, their smacking around of the Cleveland Browns. holy shit. I thought this was going to be, I thought Cleveland would win barely. I thought this was going to be a much more fun game. I did not expect this at all. Not even a little bit. And no Damian Harris, no problem. Ramondre Stevenson, 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's right. Jacoby Myers finally gets his first NFL touchdown. Kendrick Bourne, the leading receiver. Mac Jones was just balling, damn near 200 yards, 3 touchdowns. He was having a good day. And they just laid it on this Browns team. What looked so promising last week, not so much this week. And Baker got banged up. I got to be honest. I was big on the Browns, and part of that was belief in Baker, and I don't like what I'm seeing. And the craziest thing is, I really liked what I saw last year, and the stats told you, money throws, all of that. He was great. I don't know what happened this year. And it feels like this is a repeat of what we've already seen from Baker. Promise. And then after the promise, the next season comes disappointment. So I don't know what to make this dude anymore, but I got to say, my faith is dwindling. It's starting to dwindle because I know he's banged up and blah, blah, blah. This is even before that. This is just, I don't know. I thought, okay, last week you get Odell out there. Maybe that helps out. And I didn't know what it would make for the offense because it still felt like one of them spread them around offenses. But yeah, just nothing. And it's just super disappointing to see this from the Browns. And but I also like what I saw of the Patriots. And I do have to say, I really thought it was going to be tougher for the Browns to run on the Patriots because Bill does that thing where let's take away their number one thing. But hey, D'Ernest Johnson still had 99 yards, 19 carries. So he still had a solid day. And they just didn't have enough offensive power all around, really. But that's my thoughts on it. I'm definitely worried about Cleveland and the Patriots. I mean, they look better week after week. I don't know what to say about their receivers, but hey, if Jacoby Myers can keep getting touchdowns, we can definitely count on him. So let's go, Jacoby. Establish yourself. Get some more titties. So, Aaron, what you got?
Only thing I want to add to this one, we talked about how crucial the matchup was because both teams went into the week at 5-4. Mm-hmm. And the AFC as a conference, there are 4 tanking teams there. The Texans, the Dolphins that shouldn't be tanking, but
right.
Stuff happens. The Jets and the Jaguars, right? 4 of the 16 teams in the conference are tanking teams. The other 12 are 5-5 and above. Like it is that the playoff race is wide freaking open. And that's why true. I was like, you have 2 teams in that playoff race. Like the loser, like now the Browns are, and it's going to fluctuate from week to week, but they are way out of the playoff picture right now. Just looking in terms of tiebreakers and everything, like they are 10th, but like I said, it's weird. There's a lot of 5-5 teams.
Right.
There's some 5-4 teams. There's some 6-4 teams. So it's not completely over for the Browns, but as we talked about when we preview the games, the loser of this game, these games start to matter more and more because we have less and less games. And I was with you when you talked about high on the Browns. I kept going multiple times in the offseason. They're a dark horse team to win the Super Bowl. Little did I know they may be a dark horse team to slip into the playoffs. Not looking good, Cleveland.
If they could somehow acquire Russell Wilson.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I kind of like it. Anyway, your next observation, my friend, go ahead.
Let's start off with last week I brought a stat to the Dynasty Wonderland. I brought it to Twitter as well, that the New York Jets are such a fantasy football running back like dream, like heaven, because the last 3 weeks going into week 10, they had allowed top five PPR performances to the running back position, 5 in 3 weeks. Then the question became, okay, they're really, really bad against running backs. Which Bills running back? Like, there's Zach Moss, and there's like concussion. Is he going to play? If he doesn't play, Singletary. Well, Zach Moss played, and him and Singletary both scored a touchdown. But apparently, it's not just a 2-headed running back by committee. It's a 3-headed running back by committee, because Matt Breida, oh my goodness, it feels like it has been ages since we have heard that name. Breida comes in to screw stuff up, because he scores a touchdown on the ground and he scores a touchdown in the passing game. And Matt Breida actually finished, like, it might have been before the Sunday Night Football game, but he was RB 15. And it just, my takeaway on this one is the Jets still really, really suck against running backs. I don't know who they play next. I haven't looked at week 11, but whoever they're playing, actually, we're going to pull this up in real time here.
Yeah, and while you're doing that, let me just tell you, it wasn't just the running backs either. Emmanuel Sanders got 1 carry for 24 yards. Isaiah McKenzie had 2 carries for 17 yards and a touchdown. I mean, they used Davis Webb for a couple of rushes, the backup quarterback. Well, that would be the 3rd-string quarterback, right? Because, Trubisky was on. Trubisky had COVID, I believe. So
COVID, yeah.
Yeah. So, they used literally 7 dudes in the run game on Sunday.
And props to Sean McDermott. I mean, we all know, like, it was just clear. It was like the Jets can't do anything to stop the run. So, yeah, okay. And on top of that, like, Josh Allen still had some plays. Like,
366, 2 touchdowns. Stephon Diggs had a big day.
It is crazy. So now the real test is going to be for the Jets defense. The next 2 matchups are the Miami Dolphins and the Houston Texans. So I guess a Myles Gaskin week in Houston. Houston, we have a problem, but it's going to be the unmovable object versus the unstoppable force. Is that what it is?
the immovable force. Wait. Yeah, what the hell is it? I feel like I shouldn't.
I think I got it, but I said it back. It's like the unstoppable.
The unstoppable force versus the immovable object.
Yeah. It's the team that can't run the ball at all versus the team that can't stop the run at all.
Right.
It's going to be great. So, yeah, that's it's just great that they still managed to allow a pretty one of the top fantasy running back performances, and it was someone that nobody was going to start at all. No offense, Breida.
I'm with you. And then just real quick, the Jets, man, you talk about Houston, we have a problem. They'll actually be okay because they're going to get a haul for Deshaun Watson. But the Jets, I mean, even if Zach Wilson is, because I wouldn't give up on it. It's his rookie year. But even if Zach Wilson's not the guy, you better get a better team around him. Because this is, I mean, don't get me wrong. I love me some Elijah Moore, but this is pitiful. The defense. I mean, Robert Saleh is supposed to be a defensive guy, isn't he? I mean, goodness. And I do just want to say one thing. Nice to see Buffalo show everybody what Mike White really is. Because, man, that talk was annoying. I even on one of my football podcasts, normally smart people, one of them's a Jets fan, though, and he's like, I can't wait to see more of Mike White. Just like, come the fuck And then I love Joe Flacco coming in and going 3 for 3 for 47 yards and a touchdown.
Fun fact, fun quick fact on that one.
Yeah.
Matt Ryan and Joe Flacco were part of the 2008 NFL Draft. And Joe Flacco outscored Matt Ryan in fantasy football this week, despite throwing 3 passes.
That's great.
It's
great.
Have to really, really crap on Matt Ryan.
But I always dug Flacco, man. He always gets so much. I swear
he does.
Part of it is his goddamn name. It's part of it. His goddamn name is Flacco. It's got to be part of it. But people forget, man, the shit he did in the playoff. Like, that dude's done some pretty good shit in the playoffs. Like, people tend to forget that. Like, when he was called upon, he was pretty damn good. So anyway, all right. My next observation. This is actually going to be a fairly quick one, but I just have to celebrate that Super Cam is back. I fucking love this. It's one of my guys that I've just always root for in the NFL. And, the Patriots year, kind of rough. He did have the COVID shit. And then, the beginning of this year when I'm sitting there like, come on, Cam, you're dumb. Get vaccinated. You get a better shot at getting a job. And here he goes. He's vaccinated. He's back in Carolina. And you knew they were going to have some packages for him today. Not today, on Sunday for the game. And they did. And he's got yet another game of 1 rushing touchdown, 1 passing touchdown, hits Robbie Anderson on 1 play. He's get the rushing touchdown. He's yelling, I'm back to the crowd. It's just fantastic. Good to see. I know you never want to get too overexcited. You don't want that recency bias too much. But I'm excited about this, man. I think this could be, come on. He's not going to be as bad as Darnold. And he could help McCaffrey. McCaffrey this week, 95 yards rushing, 10 receptions off of 10 targets for 66 yards. And granted, I get it. Philip Walker was in the game most of the time. But I'm just saying this could be very beneficial to the offense as a whole. They steamroll the Cardinals, who just a bad day. Chase Edmonds is on IR. Fucking Kyler Murray didn't play. Hopkins, this was just a rough day for the Cards, and Carolina roughed them up. And it was good to see Cam back. And I'm not taking anything really away from the Cardinals on this one. Kyler Murray will likely be back next week. They'll be fine. But the Panthers, I was kind of like, what the fuck ever with them. But this, even if it's not always pretty, I'm just down for it for the story and for what it could potentially mean fantasy-wise. This is, man, and he looks good in that Carolina, but seeing him back in that uniform was pretty fucking cool too. So yes. That's what I got. I'm just excited Super Cam is back.
Yeah, and we speak about the jerseys. I've always been a fan of the jerseys of the Panthers. Like, that color scheme is just great. And you see Cam Newton, and it was like, even though he only had that one season when he didn't play in Carolina, it's one of those. It's like, man, it's been so long.
I know,
but it's
crazy.
It was great.
It's cool. Yeah.
And the only thing I got to add doesn't really have anything to do with the game, but I have to go. This is a story from one of my fantasy football leagues. I happen to notice. I was in one of my leagues, the league I would do anything to win every single week. It's that type of home league.
Right.
Notice my opponent. My team is utter crap in that league. Just it sucks. And I was like, like before the games kicked off, I was like, man, we're projected neck and neck, and he's one of the top teams. I was like, that's weird, because I had Gaskin, who did nothing on Thursday Night Football. I'm like, what's the story behind this? It's super flex, and I'm playing a running back in my super flex spot. So I pull up his team. I was like, oh, he's got Kyler Murray in his QB spot, and he's out. He's going to put, I wonder what backup quarterback he's going to put in. He didn't have a backup quarterback. And I'm like, oh. So right before the 12 o'clock games kicked off, I picked up Colt McCoy and PJ Walker. And when the 12 o'clock game started, I was like, that's great. He can't start a quarterback. He can't play anybody, except he picked up Cam Newton. And I think it would have been better just letting them have like choose between Colt McCoy and PJ Walker. So I was sitting there thinking, I'm so smart. I can, the strategy behind fantasy football, and it just blew up in my face big time. But at the same time, just great to see Cam Newton. But really, Cam Newton, 2 touchdowns on the first 2 plays.
Say, hey, sometimes you outsmart yourself,
Oh,
just how it goes. All right, buddy, your next one.
We talked about Green Bay and Seattle. I'll put some focus on Mr. A.J. Dillon and his 128 yards from scrimmage and his 2 touchdowns, because he has been involved even with Aaron Jones.
Very true.
The team that has just been their system. Their system has always been to feature 2 running backs, usually Aaron Jones a little more predominantly. But clearly, that's why they drafted A.J. Dillon in the 2nd round last year, because they're like, we really need we need our thunder to Aaron Jones lightning. Now, right. Aaron Jones has a knee injury, has an MCL sprain. Those can vary. They're saying 1 to 2 weeks. If that's true, he's lucky. It's a mild sprain. People that may not be familiar with, people have heard of sprains, obviously, ankle sprains, and sprains happen to ligaments. Those can range from a grade of 1 to 3, 3 being the most severe. So it sounds like it's grade 1, but those things can linger too. And you know what? If it's a 1 to 2 week knee injury, that maybe it's kind of like Christian McCaffrey 2.0 from last year, where it's oh, he'll be back, but he misses an extra game. Then he misses another game. Right. He misses another one. A.J. Dillon could very well be the late round, or not late round, but late season running back that ends up winning leagues. When you think C.J. Anderson, that one year he went crazy. He could. If Aaron Jones is gone, they already the rookie running back that ended up getting injured too. I just blanked big. Kylan Hill.
Right.
He's gone. The only guy they have is, I want to say it's Patrick Taylor, who he's been around the league for a couple of seasons, undrafted. Mainly, he's a practice squad guy. That's the main point on that. He's just kind of a guy. That's all he is. So it's A.J. Dillon's backfield, and he has shown the ability. The number one thing on his profile was, but he doesn't catch passes. Seems to be more of Boston College, where he played college. They just never. They're not really a big throw the ball to the running back team, because Dillon has shown some abilities to make plays as a receiver. So, oh my goodness, that performance he had, that may be a precursor to what he does these next few weeks.
Yes, definitely excited to see what he can do. And Aaron Jones, I personally consider him a week to week, but it'll be interesting to see if they place him on IR or not. Because if they do, we know that's at least 3 weeks. But if they don't, they might be hoping he's okay after the first couple of weeks. So we'll see how it goes. But you mentioned those late season RBs that help you win fantasy championships. I got just a quick story about that. My brother, many years ago, he worked in Texas Roadhouse. He actually worked there many years. He was manager at one point. He did all sorts of stuff. Anyway, every year they had a fantasy redraft league. And it was a little bit more of a buy-in than I normally play. And it was just competitive as all hell. People knew what they were doing. And it was a 14-teamer, which, as you know, makes things even more difficult. The final 2 years that the league was around, because my brother ran it, he ended up, when he left Texas Roadhouse, he shut it down. No, stop. What's going on here? Okay, there we go. Sorry. But the final 2 years before that league disbanded, I won the championship. One of those years was of great help to me a running back off the waiver wire who himself was picked up off of the waiver wire, off of the streets by the New Orleans Saints, one Mr. Tim Hightower. If you do not remember this guy's fucking run with the Saints, holy shit. Was it the Saints or was it the Redskins? One of those teams he played for, and the other one he went to and had some. I want to say he went to the Saints. But anyway, he had a magnificent run, and holy shit, did he help boost me as I believe my second running back. And oh, it was glorious, Aaron. It was glorious. This was the one of the most difficult fucking leagues ever, and I somehow won it back to back. My brother never fucking won the thing. So in a way, I felt bad because it was his league. He ran it. That was his shit. He was the man there, and at one point he brought me in, and eventually I won twice, and he didn't win once. So sorry, Taco. Anyway,
Womp, womp.
yeah. So that was my little story. But my next observation is going to be the Titans keep tightening up. And you look at this team, and man, I remember at the beginning of the year, it was, well, their defense isn't going to be very good. And Derrick Henry, they can't keep just feeding him, can they? These are some of the things I'm thinking. And they got Julio, and I agreed with Podfather in that sense. They're going to want to try and throw the ball more. They know, they can't keep feeding to him. They're going to pass more. And as we get into the season, oh no, they're feeding Derrick Henry. And the defense is playing better. And Julio's doing the normal being banged up kind of shit. And, so it's been about the same. But they've had to adjust. No Derrick Henry. And it's just interesting because it's not like they're doing anything impressive. I mean, you look more at the Saints, like if you just look at the box score, the Saints side on offense looks a little more impressive. But the Titans are just getting it done. No Julio Jones. I mean, A.J. Brown had one catch for 16 yards on 4 targets. The leading receiver was Marcus Johnson. And I am so mad at myself that I missed mentioning this dude in the infirmary because this was one of my sleeper guys when he was on the fucking Colts. And somehow I just spaced him off. So he goes 5 for 100. Good for him. So maybe that's the guy to look at as potential number 2 while Julio's out. But even more surprising, Donta Foreman? That's Donta Foreman? I mean, he was the leading rusher. Adrian Peterson had 8 carries, but Donta Foreman had 11 carries plus a couple of receptions. The receptions were actually, he had 48 total yards with a 39 long in there. So he had a 39-yard reception and then another for 7. So Donta Foreman getting a little work. Any excitement about Jeremy McNichols is now, right? And it's Adrian Peterson and Donta Foreman, apparently. But I'm not worried about A.J. Brown. But this, I do wonder if they can sustain this, because if you look at what they had today, it's not very good. I mean, Marcus Johnson did something, but other than that, not much. They're going to need more. So, but the Saints have a tough defense. We'll see what they do in their next game. But I'm not worried about A.J. Brown. I'm sure he'll be fine. But the offense as a whole, man, Julio needs to get back healthy. I mean, and we'll see what these boys can do, because this, like I said, it's got to be more than what they did this week.
Yeah, and with the Titans, you just can't help but just be impressed that it may not be pretty. You take care of business, though, and get the wins at the end of the day for the NFL. It's all that matters.
Oh, yeah, football side of it. Oh, yeah. They just keep finding ways to win.
But you're right, like fantasy, because it's like it's like, oh, but what about tight end? Well, tight end's been a mess too. It's just, you're right. It's rough, and that the team I have that's utter garbage in a 14 team home league. It's because I built that team on the back of a Tannehill, AJ Brown, Julio Jones stack, and
Yeah,
rough,
it
brutal,
happens.
brutal.
And hey, the Titans might have been helped by no Alvin Kamara for the Saints, because it just feels like he's such a giant part of their off that can't be replicated. So I think that was partly,
Right.
and despite that, the Saints were right there to win it. I mean, so we'll see. We'll have to keep an eye on the Titans. But they continue to win, like you said. So, all right, Aaron. Next observation to you, my friend.
Gotcha. This is my final one too. And of course, being a Cowboys fan, I got to mention Cowboys statement win. And what I mean by statement win on this one is you could already see the storylines coming. Cowboys got their butts handed to them in their stadium by the Denver Broncos the previous week. It's like, yes, okay. So the Cowboys that people know and love, they're back. So it is kind of a pivotal thing. It's interesting to see a team that's been on fire. Cowboys have won 6 straight games prior. When you lose a game, it's like, what happens? On the other side, there was the Falcons that were starting to make noise because a team that not everyone, but a lot of people are like, this team is going to be bad. They should have drafted a quarterback. They trade Julio, like they're going to be rebuilding. Suddenly they get a couple of wins. They have a few good weeks, and it's like, hold on, the Falcons if the playoffs started today, would be a playoff team. So you start, like, those were the two narratives on this one, and the Cowboys said, you know what, we're pretty pissed about what happened last week, and they just, from the very beginning, like, they sent an important message there, and they showed like this team is very dangerous, and they're getting some key pieces back. I mean, on offense, they can beat you on the ground. They've got a 2-headed running back monster there in Zeke and Tony Pollard. The receiving game, they're still missing Jarwin, and he's more of the backup tight end, but you had CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, Dalton Schultz. That trio has been doing so much damage in the receiving game, and it's like, yes, here's Michael Gallup to add to that. And the backup receivers like Cedric Wilson had moments. It's like, yeah, that's now the number 4 wide receiver. Right. So Dallas getting healthy there, and just, it was so bad. The starters for both teams were pulled with about 10, 11 minutes left in the game, and Prescott too. Like, Prescott was really bad last week.
Yeah.
And it was nice to see him come out and have maybe his best game of the season, possibly. Like,
yeah, they looked great. They looked fucking great.
It looked great. And like, these are the things you look for when you're trying to figure out, okay, the good teams and the bad teams. We've talked about this earlier in the season. Panthers and the Broncos were 3-0. It's like, okay, like, it's nice to get some wins, but what's going to happen when they have to start playing some tougher teams? Like, both teams ended up like losing 3 straight. It's like, yeah, they're not what everyone is already hyping them up to be. So when a team that is really hot, like the Cowboys, when they lose a game and they're able to bounce back like that and go, no, we're still one of the top dogs in the NFC. It was impressive. Sent a message to the league.
I agree. And I really don't have much to add to what you said, other than doesn't sound like CeeDee Lamb's injury is anything serious. Should be fine for week 11. But yeah, this team, huh?
I said knock on wood.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, yeah, despite the dud last week, I mean, you want pieces of this fucking offense. Yep. You really do. Because it's going to be fun for a while. So, all right. Well, then I will move on to my final observation. And I'm going to talk about the tie for a couple of reasons. Because one, I really thought, even with Mason Rudolph at helm, that this could be the potential for a secondary receiver to make some noise, but I also felt like it could be just a huge Najee Harris day. But it was really, I mean, Najee Harris, 26 carries, 105 yards. But really, I was really hoping James Washington, partly because I've got him rostered in a couple of dynasty leagues, and I liked this guy and his profile from the beginning. So, and he did get a touchdown in the game, but it was Ray McLeod who came in second with 12 targets, 9 receptions for 63 yards. It just blew my mind. Pat Fryermuth, he continues to make some noise. And also not such a good noise because he did have the didn't he lose a fumble or was it Mason Rudolph? Oh
Yeah,
no.
he lost the fumble
Yeah,
in overtime,
right.
and like
Okay.
they were close. They were almost at field goal range. I was like, oh man.
Yeah. And Mason Rudolph had a fumble as well and an interception, and it just like Deontay Johnson, he's going to get his, and Najee Harris as well. But other than that, and I kind of like what Pat Freiermuth is doing. Like, I don't know how much you can, like, this offense is not great. Football wise, I kind of wish that they would just go away. Like, I don't want them in the playoffs. Just get them out of here. But, you know they're going to go hardcore after a running back or I'm sorry, a quarterback next year. So in the offseason. So some of these players, like a Fryermuth, like if there's some of these guys, even Deontay Johnson, if you can get a hold of these guys while they're not looking as attractive, I mean, it would be the time to do it because if they get a quarterback, I mean, could totally turn things around. And then I got to talk about the Lions real quick because they're finally off the losing skid. That's right. No more losing. Now it's not a win. I understand. But it wasn't a loss. So I think you need to pat yourselves on the back. And if the kicker had made the damn field goal, things would have been fine. But I guess you can't totally blame him. It was partially blocked, it looked like to me. But instead, it's a tie game. And as much as I enjoyed seeing DeAndre Swift, because I mentioned in the infirmary that while people might look at, hey, Justin Jefferson, no Jamal Williams gets a healthy, workload. Somebody's going to take part of that, right? They're not just going to give it all to DeAndre Swift. And in the game last week, I pointed out when Jamal Williams went out, those other dudes, they didn't get much work. And it was so in this game as well. I mean, DeAndre Swift, 33 attempts. Godwin Iwebuike. I'm not even sure. I normally check pronunciation on dudes' names, but I didn't do that with this guy.
I think everyone will give you a pass on that one.
Okay. He had 2 attempts. Just Jamar Jefferson had 3 attempts. So it was DeAndre Swift. But here's the thing, Aaron. Here's the thing. One of those 2 carries by Godwin was for a touchdown. That's right. And one of the 3 carries by Jamar Jefferson before he got hurt, which is very unfortunate, it was a touchdown. So DeAndre Swift did all the work, but got vultured not once, but twice. So while it was exactly what I thought it would be, it wasn't. If that makes sense. So that was my biggest thing with the Lions side of the game today was like, really? I almost called this perfectly, except for Swift didn't get the touchdowns. Somehow, in the minimal work that the other guys got, they got the touchdowns. It's infuriating. Okay. You add anything if you like. Sorry.
Nah, the good and bad with DeAndre Swift because everyone's always like the people that aren't Swift fans go, like he doesn't get a full workload, and you go, here's a 30 carry game, But then on the other side, it's like, man, the literally the only thing was just in like, what are the odds, right? If those three running backs combined for 35 carries and it's split up that way, like, what are the odds that Swift is the guy that doesn't score a touchdown? So frustrating, but I will look at the positive signs of like, okay, Detroit is not afraid of using Swift in the ground game.
Exactly.
Not sure if I want it. I don't know if I want 30 carries. Because in PPR, I don't care. Like throw the ball to him. I like that.
Yeah, they definitely weren't afraid to use him. So it's encouraging in that respect. But and hey, again, Detroit, you didn't lose. Okay. I think you should have won. You probably should have. And I was rooting for you because fuck Pittsburgh. So, right. I just they're so blah to me. I hate to talk that. I just they got some good players, and I'm just Big Ben doesn't do it. Mason Rudolph doesn't do it. It's just like, hey, talk to me next year when you upgrade a quarterback. Anyway,
right.
Let's get ready to get the hell out of here, Aaron. Do you have any final Week 10 thoughts, my friend?
I think we have covered all of these games in some capacity there. So another week down, we start prepping for Week 11.
Yes, sir. We didn't really talk about anything pertaining to Jad's Colts, but there was nothing really worth mentioning in that one too much, other than our
Taylor
boy JT.
JT
having a good game. And we did mention him, so yeah, that's really all you can really say. But Thursday night football, we got that coming up, and we have on Thursday the Patriots at the Falcons. And you mentioned the Falcons. We talked about them and how we thought maybe this could be a bit of a feisty team down the stretch. And they just no Patterson now. Where's the firepower going to come from? And they got the Patriots coming to town, who are fresh off of just giving the Browns a fucking licking, just opening up a can of whoop ass, like Stone Cold used to fucking do. That's what happened there. So I don't know what to say about Atlanta. I could see this being another ugly primetime game. I'd like to say maybe it can be closer, but I'm telling you, man, this Patriot team, they are impressing me more and more. And Mac Jones, he doesn't have to do too much. He just does his thing. And there's nothing crazy fantasy wise about the Patriots. But like I said, maybe we can begin to rely on Jacoby Myers at some point if we can get a little more passing production from Mac Jones on a more consistent basis, and he's targeting Jacoby Myers, we might be able to look that way. But, nothing super exciting. But as a team, yeah, it's hard to not trust them at this point. And the Falcons, we'll see what Wayne Gallman can do.
Yeah, here's a little fun stat too in this game. The Patriots, you could say, what a rush, because they're the road warriors. They are 4-0 on the road this season, which means they are only 2-4 at home. And on the other side, the Falcons are 1-3 at home. So I guess that plays a part of why the Patriots are 6.5-point favorites on the road. I never really like taking a team that's a touchdown favorite on the road, but it'll be interesting because, of course, how many times are we going to hear 28-3? Jeez, or no, was it 31-3? Whatever the old Super Bowl. So,
well, and not only that, but like we talked about, man. What I guess where I'm coming from is I'm going to go a little differently. That we spoke about how Atlanta, they don't really have anywhere to go on offense. Who are they going to Pitts and what? So you take away Cordell Patterson, even limits him more. And then you got Bill Belichick coming to town, who's notorious for taking away your main fucking weapon. If they zero in on Kyle Pitts, Matt Ryan might be in a world of fucking trouble, man. Yeah. So like this could get ugly, I think. So yeah. But who knows?
You're
It's
right.
fucking football. Like you said at the beginning of the pod, every time we think we know, we just did it. We can't predict shit. And it all makes sense, and there's process, and it's sound, and it's just like, what the fuck happened there? Football fucking happened.
Football happened. Yeah.
Okay. All right. New schedule reminder, people. We record Mondays and Thursday now, so don't look for 2 podcasts early in the week. There'll just be the one that comes out on Tuesday. We got the new YouTube channel up, the Dynasty Wonderland podcast. Search that, the Dynasty Wonderland podcast, and subscribe and check it out. We'll have the video for this out on the morrow, Tuesday. So yes, anything else for you, Mr. Aaron, before we get out of here?
I think that's everything. Always a blast. And yeah,
Yes,
you
sir.
talked about our new show. Make sure to follow us on Twitter. You find me at AaronStew09. You can find our show. We've got a Twitter account. We're going to start posting more there, and that's at DW_pod. And Ryan, go ahead, give them your Twitter handle.
At RMK Madness, you can check it out. And don't forget to follow that on Twitter if you want to check out what I'm doing in the world of comedies and what's not. And I guess that's all we got. So adios for now. We're going to get the hell out of here. I'm going to go eat some food, Aaron. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm hungry. All right, everybody. Happy Tuesday, because it'll be Tuesday when you hear this. Stay safe, stay vigilant, stay mad. Until next time, from the chatter and the captain, ta-ta for now.